Welcome to our U.S. Briefing Show. Today, we're diving into some exciting and complex stories from around the world. First up, China is aiming to become a global science powerhouse, but unfair funding distribution is holding back many talented researchers, especially those outside top institutions. Experts suggest reforms to make the system more equitable and boost innovation. Next, China is making headlines with its support for gold, a groundbreaking kidney transplant using universal blood type, and military drills with Malaysia, all amid regional tensions and major holiday travel peaks. Finally, France faces a serious debt crisis with political instability, as the resignation of its fifth prime minister in 2 years highlights its fragile economic and political situation. Stay tuned for more details on these stories. The South China Morning Post vividly illustrates China's ambitious push for technological independence, emphasizing the critical issue of uneven research funding distribution. Despite a dramatic increase in overall R&D spending, from 300 billion yuan in 2006 to over 3.3 trillion yuan in 2023, many talented scientists remain sidelined, especially those outside prestigious institutions. Yusufu Ibibula's story exemplifies this plight, as persistent grant rejections forced him to abandon his physics research and switch careers. The system's favoritism toward established teams, which leverage influence and networks to secure the lion's share of funding, stifles innovation and discourages young researchers. Although China has made notable progress, leading in scientific publications, patents, and breakthroughs in quantum and space sciences, the fierce competition for limited grants, with success rates dwindling to around 12%, hampers the country's goal of becoming a global science superpower. Calls for reform are growing, with experts advocating for stable, long-term funding mechanisms to nurture emerging talent and foster genuine innovation, especially as the nation aims to surpass Western dominance through strategic resource reallocation. The South China Morning Post also highlights China's recent achievements amid these challenges, such as surpassing 3.6 trillion yuan in R&D expenditure in 2024 and making significant strides in basic research and technological breakthroughs. The country's dominance in high-impact publications and patent applications underscores its rapid progress, yet individual scientists face escalating hurdles in securing research grants. The competitive landscape is intensifying, with only about 12% of applicants receiving funding from the National Natural Science Foundation of China, NSFC, in 2025, a stark contrast to the United States' more inclusive funding approach. A comprehensive survey reveals that a small elite, roughly 10% of researchers, controls the majority of available resources, a situation that risks entrenching inequality and discouraging early career scientists. Experts warn that reforming the evaluation and funding systems to prioritize merit and stability could unlock China's full scientific potential, ensuring that innovation is driven by talent rather than influence, and aligning resource distribution with the country's broader ambitions of technological self-reliance. Meanwhile, CNN's coverage of France's ongoing debt crisis paints a picture of political paralysis and fiscal strain that threaten the country's economic stability. France's high levels of social protection spending, covering pensions, healthcare, and family benefits, consume a substantial portion of its GDP, leaving little room for fiscal maneuvering. The country's persistent overspending, coupled with the political deadlock following Macron's dissolution of parliament, has hampered efforts to implement necessary reforms. With a debt-to-GDP ratio exceeding 116%, France's borrowing costs are rising, and investors are increasingly wary, viewing it as riskier than even Italy or Greece. The political instability, marked by frequent changes in leadership and contentious debates over austerity measures, hampers decisive action to address the structural deficits. Experts warn that if upcoming elections bring populist or radical leaders to power, the country's financial stability could be further jeopardized, risking a broader crisis within the Eurozone. The situation underscores how political paralysis and entrenched social spending threaten to undermine France's fiscal health, making urgent reform and stability essential to avoid a repeat of past crises. South China Morning Post vividly depicts President Donald Trump's relentless political crusade, where he boldly calls for the imprisonment of Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, accusing them of neglecting ICE officers amidst his broader crackdown on Democratic-led cities. This aggressive stance, marked by the deployment of military forces and the controversial presence of National Guard troops, underscores Trump's strategy to portray immigration enforcement as a national security imperative. His rhetoric, saturated with accusations of domestic terrorism and threats of invoking martial law, ignites fierce resistance from local officials, especially in Chicago, which he labels a battleground for civil war. Meanwhile, Illinois Governor Pritzker and Chicago's mayor criticized Trump's actions as politically motivated and potentially unlawful, highlighting the deepening divide and the contentious nature of his anti-immigration policies. Trump's attempts to justify military deployments, despite legal setbacks and public opposition, reflect his unwavering resolve to reshape the nation's approach to crime and immigration, even as critics warn of authoritarian overreach and chaos. CNN offers a gripping narrative of James Comey's tumultuous journey from a respected FBI director to a central figure in Trump's political vendettas. Initially seen as a credible investigator with a complex relationship with Trump, Comey's career spiraled after his handling of the Clinton email investigation and his public revelations about Russian interference in the 2016 election. The story recounts Trump's early praise for Comey, followed by a sharp turn when the president, seeking loyalty, pressured him during private meetings, culminating in Trump's infamous firing of Comey in 2017. This act triggered congressional hearings and a series of revelations, including Comey's memos documenting Trump's attempts to obstruct justice, and his subsequent public testimony that captivated millions. The narrative culminates with Comey's indictment in 2020 on charges of lying to Congress, a move seen as part of Trump's ongoing efforts to retaliate against perceived enemies. Throughout, CNN emphasizes the broader implications of Comey's saga, portraying it as a stark example of the increasing politicization of law enforcement and the erosion of norms, illustrating how the battle between Trump and his critics has transformed into a modern struggle with authoritarian undertones. The Foreign Policy article vividly depicts the tense political landscape in northern Cyprus as citizens prepare to vote amidst deep-rooted external influences. The upcoming presidential election is a stark battleground between Ersin Tatar, who champions a hardline pro-Turkish stance advocating for a two-state solution and closer ties with Ankara, and Tufan Erherman, who envisions a federal reunification with the internationally recognized Republic of Cyprus and seeks a more balanced relationship with Turkey. However, the shadow of Turkish interference looms large, with Ankara's previous meddling and Erdogan's overt support casting doubt on the authenticity of the democratic process. The article underscores how Turkey's strategic interests, ranging from regional security to its long-standing rivalry with Israel, have transformed northern Cyprus into a critical geopolitical pawn, effectively turning it into Turkey's unsinkable drone carrier and a key element in its broader regional ambitions. As demographic shifts and economic dependencies deepen, Turkish Cypriots find themselves caught in a geopolitical maelstrom, with their electoral choices seemingly overshadowed by Ankara's strategic calculations and autocratic tendencies, making a peaceful resolution increasingly elusive. Meanwhile, the Yahoo U.S. piece reveals a troubling development in the legal saga surrounding former FBI Director James Comey, highlighting the prosecutor's awareness that their main witness, Daniel Richman, could undermine the case against Comey. Despite warnings from the Justice Department memo that the evidence was insufficient and that Richman's testimony would be problematic, prosecutors proceeded with the indictment, alleging that Comey authorized leaks to the media. However, Richman's own statements and a review of Comey's emails suggest that he never authorized or even engaged in leaking classified information, casting serious doubt on the case's credibility. This revelation exposes the case as potentially trumped up, driven more by political animus than concrete evidence, and underscores the broader concern that Comey is being targeted for political reasons. The situation exemplifies how the Justice Department's pursuit of the case may be compromised by internal doubts and the realization that key witnesses could derail the prosecution, raising questions about the integrity of the legal process in politically charged investigations. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.
Waking up to wonders, checking nature blunders. Got our rockets flying while the oceans are sighing. Lasers in the sky now, holograms we say wow. Quantum leaps and robot science news that we got. Science is awesome, so much stars out there.